I don't believe in straight men, sorry. Well, you're about to believe, sister, because you about to see the straightest man on the face of the earth.
Libs of TikTok has this. It's a video giving teachers tips on how to make classrooms more trans inclusive, because that, of course, should be our goal.
Can you explain to me why it shouldn't be our goal? I mean, not like the prime goal of all life or some shit, but like trans inclusive doesn't mean like turn all kids trans. You understand that, right? Do you understand that? It just means like if there are some trans kids here, we certainly don't want them to feel like unwelcome or something, or like, you know, uncomfortable. So let's make accommodations for them so that they can, you know, grow up with like, you know, the mutual respect of their peers. And we can send the signal to people that like, you know, you don't treat these trans kids, or they're going to be trans adults one day. Don't treat them any differently than anyone else, because that's wrong. You should try to treat everyone equally and judge them by their character. Right? Isn't that like the whole conservative spiel? Every time they try to like hijack the Martin Luther King Jr. speech, they're like, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. said we should judge each other by the content of our character. But then it's like, oh, but I also hate trans people and stuff because they're weird.
I'm Jack. My pronouns are they, them, and I identify as trans and non-binary.
I'm fucking more non-binary than this fucker. Look. I mean, sure, he's got they've got the fucking little trans heart and stuff. My nails are black. I have better jewelry, a cooler, gothier, darker aesthetic. My eye makeup is better. I'm way fucking better than this random non-binary person that they selected to be the fodder for Matt Walsh's latest act of stochastic terrorism against trans people.
Three things you can do to support trans children in your school.
No! 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 What the hell? That ain't what we supposed to be doing. We ain't supposed to be making no trans kids feel comfortable. We're supposed to be making America great again. Didn't you listen? We're supposed to be making America great again.
There are lots of ways to do this, from having trans-inclusive flags in your classroom to having trans-inclusive storybooks on your bookshelves.
I, for one, am horrified. You're a kid. You go to class, you see, oh my God, there's a fucking trans flag lapel pin on the teacher's shirt. Oh, what the fuck is going on here? What's happening? What's going on in this world? Trans-inclusive storybook on the fucking shelf? No! No! The hero had they, them pronouns. The hero had they, them pronouns. Ah! Can you guys explain this about conservatives? Let me ask you this. Are you guys like tough as nails, offended by nothing badasses who are just like, whatever, blib? Or are you like simpering little crybabies who are scared of everything? Tired of all these libs taking offense to every damn thing under the sun. What the hell? Trans-inclusive storybooks? Ah!
Stop unnecessarily gendering things in your school. This ranges from easy changes, like not grouping children into boys and girls, to not having gendered uniforms. Consider how excluded trans and especially non-binary children and staff may feel about gendered spaces and policy.
How about don't have uniforms at all? Because uniforms are stupid. Even just going beyond the trans issue, the idea that everybody has to dress the same is fucking creepy. Like, people should be able to express their individuality. People will watch stuff like Star Trek The Next Generation and see the Borg, like, oh my God, they've surrendered their individuality, the one thing that makes them, you know, human. It's like, oh yeah. But then, like, they're so eager to do it in real life. Like, oh yeah. Everybody wear this fucking dumb uniform. Everybody fucking try to look the same. The schools that have uniforms, it's always mandatory. If it was like, hey, kids who want to wear a uniform can or whatever, I mean, no kid would do it because fuck a uniform, but still. But instead, it's like, oh, everyone's got to look the same. And it's like, the idea is that it's going to remove conflict. That's always what they say. Oh, it's going to remove conflict between kids because they're not going to know they're from different socioeconomic backgrounds. They're not going to know that they're from different political leaning families. And they're not going to know this or that, or they're not going to be able to show the gang colors or whatever the fucking bullshit. But they're also not going to be able to express even a shred of actual individuality as people. They're not going to be able to express themselves with their appearance whatsoever. And everybody does that, including Matt Walsh, including this non-binary person, including me. Everybody's trying to fucking say something with their appearance. Even fucking unkempt incel fucking douchebags with severe underbites and acne into their 30s and shit are still trying to make some sort of declaration.
Teach children about pronouns, what they are, how we use them, and why they're important.
That's just a grammar lesson. Like that's literally part of the purview of what a teacher is supposed to do right there. I don't understand people on either side acting like pronouns are some new thing that was recently invented. Like a pronoun is just like a substitute for a proper noun. Instead of saying, you know, TJ, you say he, or instead of saying the specific object like the phone, you say it. You know, it's like that. So we've always had these. They've always been a part of speech. So why do people, I guess on both sides of this weird debate, continuously act as if pronouns are some new thing that emerged recently that had never been heard of before?
You know, we can make all the usual points here that this is not what schools are supposed to do. This is not what the classroom is for. This is not education.
What does that mean? What do you mean that's not what the classroom is for? The classroom isn't for students to like learn in an environment that's comfortable for them? Is that what you're saying? Like there should be no accommodations for like the comfort of the students that are there? Are they supposed to learn while simultaneously being ostracized and bullied? Pretty sure that comfort is kind of a prerequisite for successfully educating somebody.
This is a form of religious indoctrination. To promote transgenderism in the class is a violation of the separation of church and state that we always...
What? Wait, what? Separation of church and state? Which you don't even believe in, by the way. Like, he didn't even, you notice that he didn't even say, like, the separation of church and state that we believe in? Because he doesn't believe in separation of church and state. So the separation of church and state we always hear about from these damn libs. Compulsory education should be abolished. I don't agree with that. I think it should be radically reformed, but the idea that we just need like an even more ignorant population running around, not my idea of fucking paradise. People are dumb enough as it is. By the way, we're staring right now at the result of a lack of fucking education, aren't we? Like this guy literally thinks that transgenderism is some kind of religion that has some kind of church component to it, and that to have an inclusive or comfortable space for trans kids somehow is tantamount to the destruction of the separation of church and state, a concept that this guy doesn't even believe in the fucking first place. I mean, like, what kind of fucking argument is that? So if the schools make an effort to make Christian kids comfortable, is that a separation of church and state? Because schools do that, you know? Like, that's why there's prayer groups in pretty much every school. That's why you can do, like, Bible study groups as an after-school activity and shit. That's why, you know, no kid has ever been kicked out of a school for reading the Bible or even for praying in private, because there are certain accommodations made for students who have those religious beliefs. Even if transgenderism was a religion, it wouldn't be a violation of the separation of church and state to allow accommodations for them any more than it would be a violation of the separation of church and state to have accommodations for Christian students or Muslim students or Jewish students or students of any other religious background. But very importantly, transgenderism is not a fucking religion. It's a, you could say, psychological, I don't want to use the word condition necessarily because I think it has connotations of like mental illness or whatever, but like it's a psychological status to be trans, and it has nothing to do with fucking religion. There are Christians who are transgender, there are atheists who are transgender, there are Muslims who are transgender, there are Jews who are transgender. There's every religious group or denomination can be transgender. There are conservatives who are transgender, right? So the idea that this is some kind of like weird ideology or religion, truly bizarre and has no bearing whatsoever on reality.
But rather than dwelling on those points this time, I want to make a different...
Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Good point, Matt Walsh. Everyone should subscribe to me and hit the notification bell right now. And by the way, even if you are subscribed, go hit that notification bell, because a lot of you guys subscribed to me so fucking long ago, the notification bell didn't even exist back then. So go click that notification bell and fucking tell it to alert you every time I post something.
He said, especially non-binary kids. So he's talking about the challenges faced by, quote, trans and non-binary kids, even though there are no such thing as trans and non-binary kids.
There are. What do you mean there's no such thing? There demonstrably is such a thing.
Or adults, for that matter.
What? There are, though. What? I mean, even if you don't like them, you can't deny their existence. They clearly exist. That's like me saying, like, hey, little fucking miniature Bob Vila looking pussies spouting right-wing nonsense don't exist. Well, clearly they do. I'm fucking looking at one. So, you know, I mean, like, I wish they didn't, but they fucking do. So you need to fucking make the same acknowledgement. Trans people do exist. I know you don't want them to, and I know that you're trying to spread rhetoric that, you know, does them harm or worse, and you're trying to basically impose your vision on the world here. But yeah, they do exist. They're going to continue to exist, and hopefully motherfuckers like you won't.
But he's discussing the challenges or whatever, and he says, especially non-binary. And that's because there's a shift happening. We should take note of this. There is a shift happening at the top of the victim pyramid. And we've talked about the victim pyramid many times on this show. This is the victim hierarchy. There is a hierarchy.
Are you at the top? Because you're the one who's acting victimized by kids getting accommodations for their gender identity in schools. As if that has any fucking effect on your life whatsoever, which it totally does not. So if there is a victim hierarchy, yeah, I agree with you, honestly, that there's a lot of people out there who try to play the victim, and a lot of people whose, you know, claims towards victimhood are pretty fucking shaky at best. But you know who's like the top group in that fucking distinction for me is right-wing nut jobs. You guys have the biggest victim complex on the face of the earth. In fact, your victim complex might be larger than the face of the earth. I don't think there's enough materials on the planet to actually build your victim complex. It's so fucking huge.
There's this perpetual jostling and the war at the top. Like, who's the uber victim?
And what they fail to realize is we on the right are the real victims in all this.
It's kind of almost an inverted hierarchy because it means that you cannot be guilty of victimizing anyone else, but everyone is always victimizing you.
So you're literally describing yourself right now.
And victimhood is power, so it means that you have power. It's a very inverted, upside down sort of.
I don't mind him pointing this out because honestly, I think he's right about this. But I do actually agree with Matt Walsh that victimhood has become this weird form of social currency. But what is remarkable to me is this motherfucker doesn't recognize that he is part of this system and perpetuates it and propagates it his damn self.
Don't be distracted by parties and presents this holiday season. Instead,
and now we're in a fucking ad. Let's see what his ad's for.
Join Hallow's most anticipated prayer challenge of the year.
Oh yeah, let's join Hallow's fucking most anticipated prayer challenge of the year. Give me a fucking break. Go away.
This shift happening.
Okay,
where
we're back to the shift.
Non-binary is slowly replacing trans as the most favored, most protected, most cherished group.
Let's go watch what this guy actually said. He's deriving that from because this guy said especially non-binary kids. But listen to the context of that.
Stop unnecessarily gendering things in your school. This ranges from easy changes, like not grouping children into boys and girls, to not having gendered uniforms. Consider how excluded trans and especially non-binary children and staff may feel about gendered spaces and policies.
Yeah, the reason that he said especially non-binary kids in that context is because if you have like something like gendered uniforms, say, a trans girl can still identify with the girl's uniform, but a non-binary kid is not going to have any sort of like, I don't want to be associated with the boys or the girls. So there's not even a way for me to go in this. That's why, especially in that instance, it has nothing to do with some kind of like complex victim hierarchy that needs to be understood. It has to do with like the specific instance here. It's like saying that like black people are less susceptible to getting sunburns than white people. That's just true. That's because of like the nature of, you know, the skin melanin levels and shit. This is like that. So there's no, like, it's not especially non-binary because like some ultra special consideration needs to be made for non-binary kids. It's just because in that instance, they would be more victimized than just a trans kid. That's the fucking point, stupid. Here, do me a favor. Just go to Google, type in transgender woman. You'll see them. They're out there. They exist. Look, there's one. They're all around. It's fine. They're not hurting you. They're not doing anything to you. You're good.
The category of lesbian has all but disappeared.
Oh yeah, that's true. No lesbians anymore. You guys wouldn't. By the way, if that was actually true, conservatives would be happy as fucking pigs and shit. When have conservatives been like this great ally to lesbians? Like, oh man, poor lesbians can't even exist no more. Lesbians still fucking exist. It's fine. There are still lesbians. I fucking promise you there are. They've not gone extinct as a species.
As you know, because lesbians been subsumed by trans. And the same thing's going to happen with trans. I think trans gets subsumed by non-binary eventually.
Oh, wow, yeah. And eventually no one has any gender. And then, oh, well, that would actually be pretty cool because then we could just do what we want without having to associate it with some sort of like pre-existing archetype that forces us into expressing ourselves along the fucking lines of a binary fucking system. So, hey, what do I know? Yeah, you want a fucking controversial take? I want everything to be subsumed by non-binary. Trans, it's a great little, like, transitory fucking step and shit, but I actually agree with fucking Matt Walsh's straw man here. I agree with the straw man he's trying to create. Yeah, non-binary should subsume all that shit, because ultimately that's what the human race should be. We shouldn't be fucking dictating social behaviors based on genitalia. It's primitive. It's like caveman shit. If a dude wants to wear makeup or have his fucking nails black, but then also have a fucking beard and like send out fucking like mixed gender signals and shit, that should be A-okay. That should be just fine. People should express themselves on an individual basis, not on the basis of, I got a dick and balls, I got a pussy, da-da-da-da-da-da-dee-dee-dee-doo. Like, it's time for that shit to go away. It's had its run, it's had its fun, but now it's time to set it aside. Because we've outgrown it as a species, or at least we goddamn well should have.
Now, in effect, it's the same thing. It's the same brand of insanity. There's no real difference. They're both made up. They're both making essentially...
Didn't you just do a 2-minute ad for like the most anticipated prayer event of the year on hollow.com? And yet you're going to talk to me about shit being made up? Why don't you talk about the fact that you worship a fucking book of Bronze Age fucking fairy tales about talking snakes and shit? Then we could talk about what the fuck's made up, you little fucking Al Borland looking bitch.
But the advantage of non-binary is that it's even more vague. It's even more undefinable. It's even more...
What are you talking about? It's easily definable, okay? Let me define it for you right now super easily, okay? So right now, if you're born with a dick, they say you're a boy and you grow into a man and you're expected to conform to certain behaviors based on your society and your geographic region and so on and so forth. If you're born with a fucking pussy, same goddamn shit. Oh, you're a fucking girl, you're gonna grow into a woman, you're gonna do these behaviors, you're gonna conduct yourself in these fashions. That's the fucking binary. Non-binary is saying, fuck that, I'm just gonna be an individual and do what I want. There you go. There's a cogent fucking definition for your stupid fucking ass.
So trans still ties itself, for one thing, to the very gender binary that it's supposedly trying to...
Oops, I actually agree with them again.
dismantle. Non-binary is meant to be apart from that entirely. And the great thing for non-binary is that there are no expectations attached to it. There's no definitions.
I am a total agreement.
There's just like nothing at all.
Yeah.
It means even less than trans.
Wrong. It means even more. See, that's where you and I part ways. Because you're right about everything up to a point. But the idea is we remove these constraints and then voila, people can actually conduct themselves as individuals. And they can form coalitions based on, I don't know, shared values and ideologies and ideas, rather than, I got a dick and you got a dick, therefore we're part of the man club. And we like sports and we like jet skis and blah, blah. Yeah, like who gives a shit? Like, it's just saying, like, you don't have to fucking play by those rules anymore. Now you can actually live your own values as an individual person. And that means you can express yourself however you want to. So if you want to be a traditional masculine fucking dude, go right the fuck ahead. You want to be a fucking, Southern belle, debutante, I do declare. You go ahead. If that's the way that you feel like I've looked through all this like cultural artifacts and stuff and found that this thing is like something that suits me, go right the fuck ahead and do it. If you want to be like a strong man, competition level muscle man, but wear fucking ball gowns, who gives a shit? Who cares? Embrace the chaos. Let's have some fucking fun on this goddamn planet at long goddamn last. Let's let go of all this bullshit. Let's let go of all these weird impositions that you and your ilk have foisted upon us for generations. And let's wild out again, and let's reconnect with our human fucking ruts and do some crazy shit again. Let's fucking dance by the fucking goddamn fire and I don't know, like fart and burn incense and fucking dance around like fucking monkeys and shit and be crazy.
The more vague, the more undefinable, the more ambiguous the category is, the more useful it is to them. And so more and more, that's what we're going to start to see. It's like trans becomes passé, it becomes old-fashioned, and the new thing is to be non-binary. And that'll do it for this.
So basically, nothing burger of a video. Just watched a teacher say some innocuous things about having a trans-inclusive classroom, then went on to conflate transgenderism with religion, then went on to explain to us his half-baked theories of the hierarchies of victimhood from which he exempts himself despite constantly acting like a fucking victim. How are people so easily duped by this? Because a lot of people are terrified of the vision of the world that I just laid out. They're scared of actually having to be introverts. They're scared of having to actually, I don't know, figure out who they are as individuals without society keeping the training wheels of all these like manufactured identities on them at all times. Because that's all it is. Like being a man or a woman or being whatever religion you are, whatever culture you are, that's all just training wheels. Like, hey, here's your fucking preordained belief system. And if you're strong enough to break away from it, good for you. But, we're going to make it really fucking hard for you. Why not enable people to have some sort of journey of fucking self-discovery? Why not, create a paradigm wherein each individual person can explore and express themselves in a environment that is, I don't know, like lenient towards that, tolerant of that, interested in that, encouraging of that even? Like the big fear, I think, of someone like Matt Walsh and his audience is that either they're going to find out that there's nothing to them, they're just these empty, lifeless, listless vessels, or they're going to find that there's nothing in them but rot and evil and hatred and disgust. And so they're scared of that journey of self-discovery and introversion and contemplation of oneself. And so they hide behind the wall of these, vaunted traditions, 90% of which were made up in the fucking first place in their own lifetimes. They're not even as old as they proclaim them to be.